I lost both of my big toenails. Don't get fancy, don't overthink it. Not everyone wants to be on camera. I don't think I mentioned this in my vlog. They had used ChatGPT to literally plan their hike out. Hi, my name is Megan. Join me as we explore new places together, hike some trails, and enjoy this adventure outdoors. I asked recently on Instagram for y'all to send in any questions that you had for me, and I also went through the comments from my Appalachian Trail daily vlogs and took some of the most commonly asked questions there. So we are going to dive into all of that today. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means the world to creators like me. So without further ado, let's dive into the questions. And if I don't answer something that you are absolutely dying to know, then go ahead and drop it down below and I will try to answer the questions in the comments as well. I've got my laptop sitting here with all of the questions, so if you see me looking over, don't mind that. Our first question, this was the most common question that I got on any of the daily videos as well as on Instagram. What kind of watch are you wearing, or how did you get the stats at the end of your daily videos? I actually made an entire video about this because I got asked it so many times, and that was last week. So I'm gonna go ahead and link that video here. But I wear a Coros Pace 3. I absolutely love it. I'm in no way sponsored by Coros. I just genuinely love their product. I've had this watch for about 2 years, and on the Appalachian Trail or any longer backpacking trips, you only have to charge it every 2 or 3 days because it's got over 30 hours of battery life, which is absolutely insane. It's waterproof, so it did great in the rain as well. And I love this watch. I pulled the stats that were at the end of every video from the Coros app that's on my phone. So I would just screenshot that and put it right into the video. Why don't you show other hikers in your videos? It would be cool to see who you're hiking around. I got this question all the time, honestly. And you might have noticed in my initial videos that I did actually show other hikers a little more often up until I think about day 20, whenever I was at Fontana. And that is because I was hiking around the same group of people, and a lot of us were documenting our hike on YouTube. So I felt pretty comfortable with knowing that everyone was okay with being online. But I always tried to be respectful when I was filming someone else and ask for their permission, especially if I was showing their face online. Everybody is out there for a different reason. Some people are trying to disconnect from technology. Some people just don't like being filmed, and I wanted to be respectful of everyone's experience because while documenting my experience is something that I enjoy doing and something that adds to and enhances my hike, it might not be the same for someone else. So yeah, I just wanted to be socially aware, I guess, in the hiking world, that not everyone wants to be on camera. Sometimes I just didn't feel like asking, and that's why there weren't other people on camera. Next question, what did you use to film your hike? I filmed everything on my iPhone 15. I wanted to keep it super simple, and I do bring a GoPro with me sometimes when I backpack, and that's what I film all my adventure races on. But to be honest, I didn't want to carry the extra gear. I didn't want to have to worry about getting footage from SD cards and then also having to carry SD cards and keeping them dry and safe and all of that. So an iPhone for me was honestly easier. And that's why I used it. The only times I do wish I had had my GoPro was when it was absolutely downpouring. I know iPhones are supposed to be waterproof. However, the charging port, if it gets wet, it is almost impossible to get it dried out on trail, as I learned from other hikers. So that's why I was kind of hesitant and would put it in like a Ziploc bag to film. That's the only time I wish I had my GoPro. Otherwise, I thought that my iPhone did the job pretty well. Couple of these questions I got. How did you wear contacts on trail? How did you stay clean to put your contacts in? Why did you not wear your glasses? These are all variations of the same question, and the simple answer is just like you would at home. I brought Dr. Bronner's soap with me, which is safe to use out in the wilderness. There are some other variations of soap that you can use as well, but I would wash my hands before I put my contacts in the morning, and I would wash my hands again before I took them out at night. Now, I did always wash my hands with filtered water, and I would go away from the water source because you never want to contaminate a water source with any sort of washing or cooking or anything like that. So that was what I did, and I had debated switching to dailies before I got on trail, but I ended up not doing that, and I was wearing my 2-week long contacts. Those are not the ones you like keep in your eye at night. Those are the ones you take out and put them in a solution. So yes, I was carrying extra weight with solution, and I did end up, if you remember, I had to switch my contact solution on trail because I could not find the type that I was using, but that wasn't a problem. But yeah, it was a little bit of extra weight, and I will definitely be wearing my contacts when I go out because they're just so much easier to deal with. I mean, some days in town I would wear my glasses, but on trail, between the humidity and them fogging up and the rain and then you just can't see, and I need to be able to see when I'm hiking. So yeah, that's kind of how I did it. I don't know if there are more specific questions you have when it comes to wearing contacts on trail, but I would definitely recommend it. I know other people prefer glasses, but I just prefer contacts. How did you pick your gear for the trail? I mean, I just used what I had. I don't really have a fancy answer for this. I wish I could be like, oh, I used this spreadsheet, but no, I mean, I started backpacking about 10 years ago, and I started backpacking with the gear that I had. Quite literally, my backpack I used for school and then some rented gear. But I've slowly upgraded things throughout the time, and even on my hike, you know, I had to switch out my pack because it just wasn't good for what I was trying to do with it. So that would be my suggestion, is don't get fancy, don't overthink it, use what you have. And obviously if you've got a bad piece of gear, don't bring that on trail. You want gear that is working, but you can go to used gear sales, and you can even rent things if you're going out for a shorter trip. But I promise before I head out on my next lash, I will get a gear video, because I also got a lot of questions as far as like what gear I was using on trail. So I will film a gear video at some point this fall for you. I just haven't gotten around to that, and I am so sorry. What research tools, books, or videos did you use before hiking the AT? Not really any. I mean, I think like you, if you're watching this video, you're probably consuming Appalachian Trail content here on YouTube. And I definitely have been watching Appalachian Trail vlogs for a while. I watched Homemade Wanderlust. Dixie was one of the first thru hikers I ever watched. And last year I watched Molly, who was Mojo on trail, and Rissa Roams. So I have been consuming AT content, so I guess that's something I would suggest. I don't know that it accurately portrays what life is like on trail, though, to be completely honest. I don't know if my videos accurately portray that, but I think one of my biggest recommendations if you're hiking the trail is to not worry so much about advanced research. I knew people who thought they knew what they were getting into and then ended up realizing that it's not what they thought it was going to be like. But I would say, as far as practical advice with this, have the Far Out app downloaded. This app is going to be your lifesaver. And if you don't have that, having the AWOL guide printed out or saved on your phone is another option. But Far Out was so useful as far as finding places to stay in town, knowing what the trail was like as far as like campsites and water sources. That was a big one. And I don't know, people leave reviews for places. So that app for me is a must-have, honestly, on any trail that you're going on, but especially the AT or the PCT or the CDT. I would definitely have Far Out downloaded. And maybe I'll link that down below because it is the most helpful app that you can get. But I would say don't use ChatGPT to plan your hike. I met this couple. I don't think I mentioned this in my vlog. This was in like the first week or two. They had used ChatGPT to literally plan their hike out, and they had their hike I don't know, up until Virginia, and they were realizing that the mileage was wrong, the places that ChatGPT told them to stay was wrong, and they had no other resources. So everyone was like, download far out. But yeah, don't do that. Don't be that person on trail. So yeah, I didn't read a whole lot before, but that was kind of what I used as far out. Did you think about mailing ahead resupply boxes, or is that too hard to plan? I did consider it for sure, but on the AT, I honestly knew I would be changing up what I was going to be eating while I was on trail, and I knew that sending resupply boxes was going to lock me into, I'd already spent the money and I needed to eat what was in that box. So I chose not to do it because I knew on the AT it was going to be really easy to get to town, and there would be trail magic opportunities, and I just didn't want to find myself stuck in a place waiting for a resupply box, which I came across people who had been in a hostel for a day or two, or sometimes even a week. There was one hostel I was at, a guy was waiting for his package 1 week. He had to stay at this hostel. And you can bounce it forward, but sometimes people are waiting for important items like medication. And that would be the only situation I would say to send yourself resupply boxes, is if you've got medicine that you need to take and you can't get that filled in a town, or if you've got dietary restrictions. I did meet someone who has celiac on trail, and they had mailed themselves resupply boxes, and I can completely understand that, because you will get to some trail towns, and bigger ones obviously, if you've got an Ingles or a Kroger or something like that you can go to, you can definitely find food for dietary restrictions, but it's probably going to be easier. You know, if you go to a Dollar General in a small town, you're not going to really find anything gluten-free or stuff like that. So personally, for me, I will not be sending myself, when I get back on the AT, I will not be sending myself resupply boxes, but I can understand why it works for some people. But for me, it would just kind of be a whole other logistic nightmare to have to deal with finding post office. Honestly, if you're gonna send yourself resupply boxes, this is chaotic, but I'm just thinking about this. Send them to outdoor stores or like places that are willing to bounce them forward for you. That's kind of my suggestion. Why were you wearing long sleeves in the summertime? I got this question quite a bit, which kind of surprised me. I was wearing a sun shirt. It's very thin and it was just to protect my arms. So if I was going through, especially like a very exposed area during the day, I like to cover up as much as possible. I was wearing a tank top. I think you saw that a little bit, especially if I was in the woods. But if I was going through an exposed area or in the sun for an extended amount of time, I like to cover my arms. A lot of people hike with a sun shirt. It's not that crazy. It is a little bit warmer, but it's not significant, you know. So I usually do hike with a sun shirt in the summertime, but I was surprised. I saw that question come in quite a bit. Do you prefer solo hiking or group hiking more? Honestly, it depends. For the Appalachian Trail, I obviously preferred going solo and kind of hopping around trampolies or hiking with different people. The AT is a very social trail, so you're probably always going to be around someone. I think I camped by myself a total of 2 nights, so you're hardly ever alone. But that being said, I do think there's something really special about sharing the experience with someone. Like when I compare my experience on the Appalachian Trail to my experience on like the Altavia 1, it's very different for sure, and not in necessarily like a good or bad way, but I do think there were some times on the Appalachian Trail, like I can think specifically when I was up on McAfee Knob, I remember thinking to myself, wow, I really wish like one of my friends was here to experience this with me, because it was one of those really just like, I don't know, milestone moments for me where I was like, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm on a through hike. And it was really special, and I just kind of wish I had had someone to share that with. But for the most part, no, I really enjoy hiking solo and even taking solo trips and stuff like that. I think it's a really fun way to push myself outside of my comfort zone and meet new people and I'm an introvert by nature, which you might not be able to tell from how chatty I am in these videos, but I think it's a great way for me to push myself out of my comfort zone and meet new people and just get out there and challenge myself in different ways that hiking with a group doesn't necessarily let you do. But I think I like a balance of two for sure. I like hiking with people and I like hiking solo. Oh, this one's fun. Would you rather hike all day in the rain or all day in the snow? Well, as you might know by now, I am from Georgia, which, not the country, the state in the US. I don't have a lot of experience hiking in the snow, and the snow that we get here is basically ice. But I do remember last winter, I had the chance to go to Norway, and we did a couple of little baby hikes in the snow, also in the dark because wintertime there is very dark. But it was kind of fun, and it was real snow. It wasn't this like ice that we get down here in the South where it's just wet snow. So that was fun. I think maybe if I just had to pick for one day, I think I would pick the snow just because it's such like a novel thing for me and not something I get to do very often. This next question is something that I got a couple times, and some of them were kind of not kind ways of asking this question, but essentially it was, why don't you just flip up and finish your hike this year? One person said, you're only a quitter if you choose to be a quitter. So yeah, I guess I chose to be a quitter this year. I don't know, but yeah, for medical reasons, I did choose to end my thru hike for this year. And at this point, I am finally feeling better, which is so nice. Like, I went for a 2-mile run the other day and actually felt good at the end of it. But I don't feel good enough to where I feel like flipping up to Maine. Maine had a heat wave recently. I don't know if you know this, but 2 people who I was hiking near, one of them had to get medically airlifted because they had heat stroke on trail in Maine. So flipping up to Maine will not solve all of my heat related problems. This year has been an incredibly hot year on the East Coast especially, so. But I feel like if I flip up to Maine and start from up there, I would have to be back literally in like a month. And there's no way I could actually finish a thru hike in that amount of time. And I don't want to rush my experience with that. So I had planned to be done with a thru hike by the fall, and I have other commitments in the fall. So I never want the hike to feel like a job or like something I like have to get done. I want to enjoy it, and I want to enjoy my time out there. So yeah. Were you ever scared / did you have anxiety on trail for any reason? I think I can think of only one time when I was scared on trail, and maybe all the others, it's like looking back, everything was just rose-colored glasses or whatever. But I talked about this a little bit at the end of my trail days video. And without going into too many details, there was a guy who I met at a road crossing who had basically said that he found me, and he was like following me around, trying to take all these pictures and videos of me, and then tried to follow me further. And thankfully I was hiking with another guy at that point, and the guy essentially told him off, and he ended up leaving. But that's why I significantly delayed my videos after my UK trip, because all it takes is one person. I felt safe on trail for the majority of time, but that one experience was not great. But yeah, I think that's the only, oh no, I will say there was another time on trail when I came across, this was going up Dragon's Tooth. I came across a mama bear and cubs, and I had to kind of bushwhack around them because she was making very like warning, aggressive noises at me. And I'm not generally afraid of bears, because usually they're more afraid of you. But I was afraid of a bear that time because You don't mess with the mama bear and her cubs. Can you make a sticker set with some of your phrases? What? I don't know I have phrases. Can you guys tell me if I have phrases? I know I do end the video by saying another great day of hiking. I mean, maybe I do say other things. I've definitely like picked up phrases from some of my friends, I think, but I've never thought about making a sticker set or merch or anything like that, but I don't know, maybe a shirt or a sticker that says another great day of hiking. I don't know how I would even do that. So could be fun, but have no clue how that would even work. Aw, I got a couple people who asked how I was doing, which is really sweet. But I'm doing okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously I was dealing with a lot of like physical recovery after I got off trail, and thankfully now that I'm physically feeling better, I'm just like trying to build back up endurance. And YouTube is so interesting because you want to share, sorry if you hear the dog barking. You want to share, you know, like I want to share with you guys, y'all are my online tramily, but I don't want to share too much. But emotionally, I've been working through, and I guess just like coming to peace with some of the disappointment of not living up to the expectations I had set for myself when it comes to a through hike. Because as far as, you know, the negative comments or people telling me things about myself, I can kind of deal with that. It's mostly me being hard on myself. Like I'm my own worst critic. But overall, you know, I've got a great group of friends here, and overall, I'm doing okay. But thank you for asking. How can I vlog my hike next year? Oh my gosh, are you through hiking? That's exciting. I guess you know if you ask this question. I guess my biggest piece of advice, if you're vlogging your hike, you need to enjoy the whole process of vlogging. You should not vlog your hike if you do not enjoy editing, because it's different from this. Like if you enjoy taking pictures and videos, that is great, but you need to enjoy editing and you need to practice before you get out on trail. For me, taking pictures, taking videos, documenting the experience and editing that added to my hike. I think I've said that before, it really enhanced my experience. However, you're going to be spending a lot of your 0 day editing. So you need to enjoy it. Otherwise, you are 1, gonna start to hate your hike, or 2, gonna start to hate the fact that you decided to vlog your hike. And yeah, you don't need fancy gear unless you really want to carry a camera with you. There were a couple people who were sending their cameras home in Franklin or in Georgia because they had thought they wanted to carry it, but it realized it just wasn't worth the extra weight. So yeah, I mean, you don't need anything fancy, and make sure you enjoy it. Oh, and make sure you have a way to back up your footage, because you're gonna need to do that. You're gonna have a lot of footage from trail. Do you have a job? Yeah, I talked about this a little bit in my pre-hike Q&A, but yes, I do work. As much as I wish I were independently wealthy, I do have to work. But my primary role is a pet sitter or a farm sitter, so I do get to travel a lot with my work, and the hours are pretty flexible. Like I get to kind of pick when I want to work and what jobs I want to accept as far as that goes. But I also do work a second job with a local company that does sporting events as well as concerts. I also had a third job last year and the past couple of years as a substitute teacher. However, my certification did expire while I was on trail, and I don't have plans of getting recertified at this time. But yeah, those are my jobs. Did you ever, I guess YouTube too now is a little bit of a job. I don't make a whole lot on here, but I enjoy doing it, so it can feel like a job sometimes. Did you ever have a day where you didn't want to film? Yeah, I didn't want to film on 0 days. I think that was it though. pretty much every day on trail, I enjoyed filming and I wanted to film, but 0 days were hard because you just have so much to do practically, like not even counting the video editing, just trail things from laundry to resupply to cleaning your gear. Like, I don't even know. 0 days were just always, I jokingly said you need to rename them because yes, it technically means 0 miles hiked of the trail. However, 0 days are some of the most busy days on trail. But I do think looking back on trips that I've taken, the only times that I've really regretted something is when I haven't captured the trip. So I'm thinking back to like the Kalalau Trail I did in Hawaii and the Rem to Rem hike I did of the Grand Canyon. I wish that I had videoed those trips, and I don't have that footage to go back and rewatch. But I also just really love filming and capturing the moment, and I do feel like it helps me stay more present, which I know for some people it can be distracting, but for me, it helps me stay present. So long-winded answer to that question, no, I didn't really ever have a day on trail where I didn't want to film. I think this video is starting to get a little long, so I'll get to a couple more questions and then I'll call it quits. When you were hiking consecutive 12 plus, 20 plus mile days, did you experience any pain or injury? One person asked specifically about toenail problems. No, not really toenail problems specifically, but I did talk about this in some of my daily vlogs. I had sprained my foot before trail, so I was being super careful at the beginning, and I did experience some pain in my tendon throughout trail, but it was never hike ending, I guess, if you want to call it that. The only real issue I did have, I believe this was around the Smokies. I got a new pair of shoes because I started trail with a pair of shoes that had hundreds of miles on them already, so I knew they weren't going to last long. I got a new pair of shoes. They were the same model, I think, or the same type of shoe, but they were a newer version of the shoe, and my heel started bleeding, and I thought it was just because I hadn't broken them in, so I wore them, and I was just having issues with my heel bleeding. So then I ordered the same exact pair of shoes that I was wearing before, switched those, and my foot problems were solved. So it really was something weird with the heel of the new model that I had gotten. But I guess as far as toenail issues go, I did used to deal with, like, I lost both of my big toenails on my Rem to Rem hike of the Grand Canyon because I wore shoes that were too small for me. And I thought I had sized correctly, but you really want to size up like half a size or a whole size. So now I size up basically an entire shoe size, and my toenail issues have gone away. So if you ask me this question because you have toenail problems, I mean, it could be genuinely something wrong with your feet. That sounds so mean, I'm sorry. but it could also be you're just not sizing correctly. So go get fitted at a store or something. But I also did know someone on the AT, this might be TMI, but they had some like toe fungus issues. It was after like a week of rain, so I don't really blame them, but they also had pretty poor hygiene. Like, they were the kind of hiker that was like, oh, I go into town and I don't really shower, I just resupply, I shower like once a month or whatever. But I kept my toenails painted, so if they were dirty or they looked bad underneath, I never knew. I didn't have to look at it. So maybe that's a little hack for you. Keep your toenails painted so you just don't know if there are any issues. I think I'm gonna end with this one. This is a pretty common question I got, which I understand. When are you getting back on trail? Let me decide if I want to say this. Yeah, I think so. If you watched this far in the video, I think you might get a little sneak peek, if you will. I'm not gonna make any promises or announcements just yet, but I'm just gonna say this. My hope is that 2026 will be my redemption year when it comes to the Appalachian Trail. Yep, so that's it for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon for another great day of hiking. Bye everyone.